Greetings in the divine name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I, the first King Alpha. I and I, Divine Mother, Empress Menen, Queen Omega, and I, the children of Jah, Rastafari, representing for the Ankh Nation family, popularly known as Africa. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in I and I sight, O Jah. Yes, ones and ones, once again, give thanks for lending ear, so I can articulate Rastafari. Now, this word sound is in relation to Rastafari. Now, the first time I come across the terminology of Rastafarites or the application of Rastafarites and Rastafari. Now, Rastafarites, when I a student of Rastafari, and in I trads and learn, I learn about Rastafari. Because I continuously learn about Rastafari. I recognize in the 50s and 60s, I'm feeling probably more 60s, the Jamaican reporters, media outlets, and love to refer to the traded early out as Rastafarites in relation to subversive. That I know Leonard Orwell, them time frame. No, that's the first time I come across the word Rastafarites and Rastafarians and them kind of in application to Rastafari. No, I must say along the way I search and I come across a one Fly Jarvis, and out of that me hear him come up with a terminology or I push the narrative say Rastafari was founded in America, specifically in Chicago. Now, like I say, I as a student of Rastafari, when I go in and go do I little due diligence, I recognize that indeed there was this one in a Chicago named Prophet Redding, real name Grover Cleveland Redding, and he was an Ethiopianist, and he built Ethiopianism. And in 1919, Rastafari region plenipotentiary of Ethiopia, which I later on declare as His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. Now, when His Majesty sent a delegation of 4 Ethiopians to re-establish the 1904 treaty between Menelik and America. And then His Majesty sent these 4 missionaries to re-establish the 1904 treaty in 1919 in relation to trades and diplomatic relations. So, Reading in a film time now in the 1919 cites up these individuals coming into America from Ethiopia. And he got inspired, and as he was a Bible man too, reaching in Bible and reach Psalm 68 where it mentions say, princes shall come out of Ethiopia, and Ethiopia shall stretch forth and so forth, so forth. So him identify these 4 missionaries as fulfillment of prophecy. And by in so doing now, he came about and have him congregants, them, him followers, them. And in 1920, reject America, embrace firm his allegiance to Rastafari region, plenipotentiary Ethiopia, allegiance to Rastafari and Ethiopia, and now he declare himself as a Ethiopian. And him and him followers, them, and one thing lead to the next. In one of him protest them. Him burn the American flag. Now American patriot decide to intervene, and one thing lead to the next, and people get injured, and Redding end up getting arrested, and eventually them kill him. So that is line after time now. Them declare Redding because him follow Rastafari, them call them the Rastafarites. But Redding have him own organization. Me go further along, but that are those synapses where I and I manifest. And this video you know, first we're going to invoke the fair use disclaimer, and the video where I and I manifest, I and I come across it from the Lions Voice Network with Dijamak Kwasi Bansu, reason with Ronald Pennico, Ethiopian World Federation representative, and it's a elder too. He are one of the ancient them because he put in them work too. But nonetheless, I and I go tune into the sound, and then intermittently I and I will give some word sound in relation to this Rastafari rights and ones one give the origins of Rastafari to Black Americans. You know, and like I said, we not take away the works of Prophet Redding. And in the same extension to James Morris Webb too. Because this is another American where Marcus Garvey said, look to the east, there shall be crowning of a black king, and the day of deliverance is at hand. Reverend Webb said, a universal black king shall be crowned, something along that line. And ones now, say Marcus Garvey get the sound from Webb. They look to the east, but the essence meaning are the same. Marcus said look to the east, and Webb said universal black king. You know what I mean? If whichever way you want to play with it, I manifest the same principle, but the wording might be a little bit different. Now, if you want make needle out of haystack with that, then hold on upon that. But we are going on the bridging video, and then from there, so reason upon it, because like I say, I a student of Rastafari, and when I and I come on this space, it's strictly about Rasta business. One, I and I defend Rastafari. I and I always keep the knowledge of Rastafari. And therefore, I and I always going to show the viability of Rastafari. And I always going to show why I and I must declare Rastafari and own Rastafari. Because it's I and I own. I and I always going to manifest these things. So when I and I hear certain sounds where counter, or ones want to claim, and the truth be told, no matter where, if a Jamaica or America Rastafari start, I and I won't set speed. So anyway, this is the bridging them.
Is a legend. Local number one in New York, Ethiopian World Federation, local number one. The chairman of our local, he brought with him that article that I sent to you. Okay. Now, when I didn't read it at the meeting, I waited until I go home. Yes. And when I go home, I read it. And trust me, I couldn't believe what I was reading. Yes. Yeah. So we will talk about it. Yes, sir. Yeah, don't want to jump ahead.
No. It's great because I was going to ask you the next question. The elder's too humble. But again, we don't have to go through history because it's already recorded on this episode. Because the next question I was going to ask is what made you send that article that you were exposed to? What was the thought process?
Well, you're handling the Rastafari non-aligned media. And that's why I chose to send it to you. Because you're doing a marvelous job. And yes, my brother, a lot of people are tuning in. And that's what we need. Yes. So that's why I sent it to you, because you are at the forefront of our media. Yes, sir.
Give thanks. That make I feel so mighty. And I want the item to know that I'm not out here just wildly. I have elders that I am responsible and accountable to. So when the elders send me something, You have to take the time and have to read through. And if you want, give it a highlight, you have to make the time to do that. So I don't want them think I'm out here wild and free. No, we represent the community, we represent the people, we represent the liberty. You know what I mean? So the elder, brought this to I, and I'm bringing this to the global family. We do have the author here in the comments, Brethren Sifaway. I always rated the Brethren as a researcher, you know what I mean? All controversy aside, I rate the Brethren and the work speaks for itself, you know what I mean? Along with pictures, and it's a marvelous history, and it shows the power. You know, when we say that Haile Selassie is the Almighty, one of the evidence for that is that it never just hit a little section of people in Jamaica. It was a global. You know, you can show global residue of the impact. You know, of the uprising, and so many ones were thinking on the same level or on various aspects of the level. You know, website is balanta.org, balanta.org. The article is titled May 5th, the most important day in the 20th century, and evidence that the ancestors of African people communicate to their descendants on the earth and shape world events. So I'm going to read through this, and we're going to reason on this, here. So, and I encourage the family to read the entire article because it goes up through the war and into a lot of history that everyone should know. And if you're on the fence about Rastafari, this is something that should help to put some strength in your spine and make you stand up a little straighter and know yourself. You know what I mean? Know that you are holding the baton. You know what I mean? Before we start there, I want to block anything, man.
No, I'm interested to know where you're going to start from, because my interest in it is the rest of our rights.
Yes,
so that's all I'm going to
Yeah, that's the topic that we're touching today, the Rastafarites. Who are the Rastafarites? Where did this liberty catch the flame? So we're gonna start at the beginning. So I'm gonna read from the beginning, and then we'll stop and pause and reason and come back again. Just like we do at the IDO study group. So the article starts. It says, in 1917, a black man named Charles Henry Holmes, pen name Clayton Adams, wrote a book entitled Ethiopia, the Land of Promise, a book with a purpose. The book was a novel best described as visionary prophetic fiction. In the book, 5 black men had strange dreams which caused them all to meet together on May 5th. One of the dreams pictured black soldiers on a red, gold, and green flag. The men began meeting on the 5th of every month and realized that their dream was about forming an organization, the Ethiopian Union, in order to combat and conquer Jim Crow in America. Jim Crowism in America. The events of the book actually came true. Black soldiers in Ethiopia and all over the world gathered together as Ethiopian emperor left on May 5th, 1936 to fight the Battle of Armageddon. After exactly 5 years of battle, on May 5th, 1941, the Ethiopian emperor returned to Ethiopia victorious. He then set up the Ethiopian Union in Addis Ababa, calling it the Organization of African Unity, the OAU. Below is the most amazing story how all this happened exactly as the ancestors revealed it to Charles Henry Holmes, pen name Clayton Adams, who prophesied it in the book. So this is the opening the Virgin sets it out, and we're utilizing socializing fair use. Again, I encourage everyone to review the entire article on the Brethren site, Malanta.org. So, was the eye familiar, Elder Pennycook, about Clayton Adams? Have you ever heard that history before?
No, this is totally new to me, right? And I consider myself to be knowledgeable, But
Yes.
then I never knew anything about this. So this is something very exciting because it is really telling us that what we do today has a relationship with what they were doing back in 1917. Yeah. So we will touch upon it as we go along.
Which is over 100 years ago. And
Yes.
what this says to I is that these black people, because it's the same bloodline that run through I and I in the diaspora, are gifted with the iris of prophecy. So as events are flowing, people are feeling an energy that's coming. Something is bubbling. Remember that these black people are black people under subjugation. They cannot drink out of the same water fountain as white people. They can look a white person in the eye or they risk being murdered, lynched, killed, And this man, in the midst of this now, is writing a fiction novel about black people coming together on May 5th and forming something called the Ethiopian Union. And the article wants to explain the importance of Ethiopia in the cosmology of black Americans at the time. So remember, this is America that we're talking about. And now we introduce another character that everyone should know, everyone should be familiar with. Um, and we continue. The article goes on to state the same year, Robert Atterley Rogers, another black man, also produced a pamphlet called The Negro Map of Life and began traveling across the United States preaching the law of Ethiopians' redemption. 2 years later, in 1919, Regent Plenipotentiary RASTAFARI sent 4 ambassadors by the way of the ocean to the United States. Royal Ethiopian mission, including the Chasmach Nedo, Empress Aditu's nephew, and command.
Yeah, ones and ones. These are the four ones them where I and I mentioned earlier out in the word sound. So we will continue to pay attention and listen because that is also important to learning.
The Imperial Army, Atto Balangata, Hem Hiroi, Wunli Selassie, Mayor of Addis Ababa, Atto Kantiba, Gabro, Mayor of Gondar, Atto Simkas, Secretary of the Commander of the Ethiopian Army. Their purpose was to renew the Treaty of Friendship with the United States signed by Emperor Menelik in 1904. In honor of their visit, the Ethiopian flag was ceremoniously hoisted over the White House. So, how many people knew that the Lion of Judah flag was hoisted over the White House in 1990? Height of Jim Crow. And all of these people mentioned would have been princes of the royal bloodline, you know. So these are princes, and we'll see how that factors in. But at this time, this is when Empress Aidito is reigning monarch, and Rastafari is heir to the throne, but he's handling all of the affairs of government. So everything except for the title, he's running Ethiopia. Empress ID2 is the figurehead, still holds tremendous sway and has her, her contingent of people who are loyal to her, who are loyal to her father. But the power, the vision, the execution is all coming from RASTAFARI. So when you read this about Atelier Rogers, which he has created one of the seminal books of Rastafari Foundation, were you familiar with this part, and what do you think about what the Virgin has outlined here about Rastafari sending ambassadors in 1919?
Well, what it says to me, that is an expression of His Majesty's love for us. Yes, He realizes what we are going through, and He realizes that we need to come home. So He's going to put in place everything that we need to come home, even if the governments that represent us, let us say, remain tardy, they become tardy, which means that they're kind of lazy, right? Yeah. Even if the governments are like that, that don't stop us, because He will provide us with whatever it is we need to help ourselves.
Yeah, in relation to, I know that Elder Pennycook now answer the question I know, but him already have a preconceived notion where he want push for Ethiopian World Federation agenda and push for reparation. So at that, he might use the time to speak to and therefore manifesting what him feel His Majesty I do. But that mission was not about necessarily, it was about Ethiopian governmental issues. And Ethiopian government to government meaning Ethiopia government to America go re-establish them trade agreement and them diplomatic. Because now His Majesty there on the world scene as a visionary, and he might put things into play for the protection of Ethiopia. That is what the visit was all about. It was not about a reparation, and we not deny the fact that His Majesty love I and I, but at that space in time, 1919, the visit was about government to government relations.
These are the history, that is very important for us, because what they are trying to do, and right now, there's a huge diaspora war that's being pushed online. African Americans against Caribbean, against continental Africans, and them accosting one another back and forth. All of this is the divide and rule tactics, because they see the power of the Pan African flame, kindling. And this history, what I love about it is shows the interconnectedness has always been there. It's not the aberration, it's the normal progression of I and I people, that I and I would seek to return to Africa. And I and I see that connection with Africa. They've always been trying to separate I from the continent and from the homeland. And as Rastafari, we have a unique role to crash these diaspora wars and to chant for the oneness. This is one of the reasons why I created this platform, because I want to make sure that Rastafari Christ is put within that Pan-African pantheon, and they don't just put us in a one love hippie type of space. Them way the elder, because this was a black liberation movement in its genesis.
All right, what was the question you asked me again?
No, I'm just saying that they're trying to push a diaspora war, and this information shows interconnectedness that has always been there between Black Americans. We got the information that the first Black American repatriated to Ethiopia in 1909. Against the people from the Caribbean, we have Robert Atelier Rogers, who was moving through America, preaching about His Majesty and blackness and Ethiopia in the the teens. So there's always this interconnected energy between Africa, Black Americans and Black people in the Caribbean. You know what I mean? One family. How do I cite that?
Well, you know, I'm going to jump to the Rastafarites,
Yes.
bring it home. No, it started in America, right? You know, I am trying to figure out why they call themselves that. Yeah, because it is today the same thing. Rastafarites in Jamaica. Yeah, but we know that it came from America. We think it's Jamaica it come from. So I want us to know.
No. When it's sad now, you know. I mean, I tell you why it's sad now, because when I look on the elder, when you look on the elder, you can see the anciency of the elder. And for I sit and listen to the elder, I give it, and I say Rastafari, start in America. And based on I, being a student, research, and listen to them argument too. This is why I as the young lions, them, you know. I have a, when I go, I would never be one to disrespect the elders, them. But I have to correct. Yes, where the elders, them go wrong, I have to correct it. And right now, in relation to this elder, Penny Cook, him I go give because him come across some information. And obviously, when I listen to him too, him are one of them where quick. Him not stand up on the foundation of Rastafari, you know. Him quick for give it way. And him a go give it way to Black America in a sense because ones and one put forward Prophet Redding. And Prophet Redding in him overzealousness in the 1920 with the burning of the flag and hence it caused a riot. And them people end up lose them life. And even himself eventually lose them life too. Him is a Pan-Africanism deal with Ethiopianism. And out of him desire with him Ethiopianism, follower of the man Rastafari. Let me declare now. Rastafarites is not Rastafari. Rastafarites follow Rastafari region plenipotentiary Ethiopia. Rastafari declared the divinity of Haile Selassie, his imperial majesty, as God in flesh, divine. Black monotheism. Make we continue listening to them.
It came from America. And why? Because Majesty loved Black Americans. Yes, he loved them very much. Why? Because they are professionals. Yes, they are well trained. Yes, they are exactly who we need in Africa to make Africa beautiful.
No, Jaja. So when Elder Pennycook, you tell me say no professional na there Jamaica, no professional na there Trinidad, no professional na there England, no professional na there in the Caribbean. Eh? You declare says His Majesty love all I and I. The Black Americans them is important in a sense. I'm gonna tell you why the Black Americans them important. They are a building block, a strong economic building block in America. And next to white America, them are the next strongest ethnic group. No, not anymore anyway. The Latinos them surpass them now. But in that space and time, the Black Americans them was the next strong ethnic group next to white people. So economically, the Black American was viable and strong. And the influence them could apply because at them time they, if them go for protests and all of these things, them can affect the American government. So Ella Pennycook, When you sit down, come on the Lion Voice and I say this, my elder Jano, you sound like a little sheep. It hurt me to even say that in addressing the elder, but the truth are the truth. How you for come on that platform that we know thousands of people of you as a elder Ras, and I come declare about a black American start Rasta, and then you turn on and a disrespect and I talk about say Americans are professional and a them want in Africa. The only reason why you have said that because you have view black American economic power. And that you are pre. And that's may I call it as it is. And that the hell are pre. So this is why in my placate and I talk about say America they are more professional. Nah. Everywhere black people they're professional. America, in its sense, because of by virtue of being in America as black people, them probably have them more economically viable in the sense in a one region you have them strong. The next to white America, them strong back in a them space. And them still do, them still hold the economic power of black Americans is still viable. But don't because you desire to whatever you want to placate them because you want to appeal to them to come to Africa, Ethiopia. You know what I mean? You want to diminish the rest of I and I in the diaspora. You're wrong. And you're out of the mail.
Again, like I said, we have the author here in the comments. So we're going through family. A lot of guys, and this will be the first time hearing this information, but it's necessary. We've come to the time where we need, because I said this, I said the moment that Rastafari hit Black American culture, it done this because we see, with hip hop and all these things, Black American culture is the most influential culture on the planet. And one of the things, even with Bob Marley, before he.
So, Kwasi, Dijama Kwasi, you think Jamaica culture as little as we is as Jamaicans? You know, things that were just as impactful upon the world, or even more so? The one them have to take responsibility to what come out of them mouth. And when you talk like that to I and I, you empower black Americans to continue with this divisiveness what they might go on with right now. Because you give credence to them. And that ego, that superior kind of mindset with them develop by being in America in the house of the white man. Jamaican influence is just as impactful upon the world. And I have to take into consideration Jamaica is just a that. So how you this Jamaica quasi bands who are come out of your mouth and say black Americans are the most influential. But then again, like me say, at this and when I and I declare and say Rastafarians different from Rastafari. Cause right now I feel like you exhibit Rastafarian tendencies. I and I dig that sound from your Kwasi. That may I tell you. But nonetheless, I when I take it from what you do in relation to Rastafari, but I feel like so the eye should be more mindful what the eye say out of the eye mouth.
And this history getting out there, I think, is very important for that because a lot of Americans may think this is a Jamaican vibration. Now, I say that Rastafari started in Ethiopia because we know that there were priests, there were people in Ethiopia who cited the divinity of His Majesty from he was a youth. You know what I mean? So the true faith and that acceptance to I started in Ethiopia. But with this information.
Now, I want to know why it's so hard for ones and ones give credence and credit to Jamaica. Rastafari birthplace at Jamaica. Rastafari birthplace is Jamaica. His Majesty Ras leads Tafari, or later becomes RASTAFARI, region plenipotentiary, heir apparent to the Ethiopian throne, Ethiopia. But nonetheless, it's I and I. The Ethiopians them never declare His Majesty. I and I. And furthermore, I and I come on the forefront publicly and declare the divinity of the king. Yes, you might have ones and ones what monks and them people in Ethiopia. We might identify the mysticism surrounding the king. Like the one them a prophesy predicting the birth and all of that and the specialness of the king. Yeah, you have these Ethiopians that did that. But those Ethiopians never declare His Majesty as God. I and I as Rastafari do that at Jamaica. So that ones and ones to stop try rewrite the history. And that I'm a problem. And right now, Kwasi that you do. Because I recognize I use a Ethiopianist, you know. And nothing wrong with that. Because all the Rastas are Ethiopianists. But nonetheless, don't try to take away. Rastafari birthplace of Jamaica.